Have you ever gotten into an argument with a computer over a bill? Wow, what frustration. When you try to tell the computer it has made an error, it seems to take a fiendish delight in doubling or tripling the error and sending you another bill. Actually, however, the computer is doing a fantastic job of moving toward its assigned goal. The real trouble is with the person who programmed the computer. If no one ever looks at the results the computer produces, any error in the original instructions given to the computer will never be found. The computer itself is totally successful in achieving its goal, to do whatever the programmer told it to do. A computer and the programmer work together much like the way your brain performs two different functions, both of which are necessary for you to be successful in anything you undertake, from tying your shoes to running a business. Let's take a look at how your brain functions as a goal selector and a goal seeker to bring you the success you desire in life. One part of your brain does the conscious thinking and planning that help you identify the goals you want to pursue, the problems you need to solve, and the creative projects you want to enjoy. This is the active concentration you bring to your job and to all of your other daily activities. A far greater portion of your brain's function is absorbed in carrying out the decisions you make and pursuing the goals you identify in your conscious mind. This function has been given a number of different names: the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind, the goal-seeking mechanism, or the psychocybernetic force. What you call it doesn't especially matter, but how well you use its capacity makes all the difference in the world in the results you achieve. The goal-seeking part of your brain is almost unbelievably efficient in carrying out your instructions. Why then do you sometimes experience failure, or at least a lower degree of success than you desire? Let's go back to that computer you had the argument with over your bill. The programmer told the computer what to do, but in the process made some error in the instructions. The computer is an obedient but unimaginative clerk. It carries out orders exactly. The computer unerringly sought its goal. The problem was that the goal had been improperly identified, so the result was disappointing. You are the one who programs your personal computer. Unfortunately, you made many decisions about your abilities and potential at a very immature age based on what the important adults in your life were saying about you. You probably also accepted some unrealistic goals based on what people said you ought to do. You may still be clinging to some of these outmoded decisions, or if you have discarded them, you may not have replaced them with clearly defined goals. But you are the programmer of your own life. You can correct an old program that contains errors or replace it entirely. In other words, if you are not achieving the success you want and are capable of achieving, it is because your goals are not clearly and accurately defined. Your psychocybernetic force works on the basis of feedback from your environment. It compares your goal with the feedback it receives and monitors your progress. Anytime you are off track, it makes needed corrections to get you back on course. It is an automatic goal-seeking mechanism. A simple goal-setting mechanism that is familiar to you is the thermostat that controls the temperature in your home or office. The thermostat is programmed to maintain a constant desired temperature. A thermometer connected to it constantly monitors the temperature and gives continuous feedback to the thermostat. When the temperature varies more than a set number of degrees, the thermostat reacts to this negative feedback and triggers the heating or cooling system to restore the temperature to the desired range. The most complex computer or mechanical device ever built is almost simplistic in comparison with the infinite capacity of the human brain, your own built-in goal-seeking mechanism. Your brain operates with far more efficiency than the most sophisticated computer ever designed. It has the ability to store a greater body of information and to retrieve it more quickly than any mechanical invention could ever manage. Operating below the level of conscious thinking, your brain accepts input and data from your environment, from the thoughts you think, and from your feelings. It processes all of this complex data and synthesizes it into feedback that tells you how to modify your thoughts and actions to maintain a sure path to your goal. This goal-seeking ability is a built-in gift of God to all living creatures. Its basic purpose or goal is to see that the creature shall live. In animals, this goal-seeking sense is limited primarily to the survival instinct, to find food and shelter, to avoid danger, and to procreate. In you, however, the goal-seeking instinct carries an infinitely higher purpose. The purpose of your goal-seeking mechanism is to provide you with life, abundant life, in a much higher sense than mere biological functioning. Life for you means much more than mere survival. It includes meeting your emotional and spiritual needs as well as your physical needs. It includes the ability to solve problems, to create and to invent, to run a business, to learn about the universe and how it works, to develop your personality in whatever direction pleases you, and to live a fulfilling life. The quality that separates you from animals is the ability to choose the goals toward which you will move. Once you identify a goal, the only problem left for your brain is to lead you to fulfillment. The brain works like a thermostat. It focuses on the desired result, makes continuous adjustments in response to feedback, and finally arrives at the goal. The only part of the process that requires conscious thinking effort on your part is the selection of the goal. When that is done, your mind then operates below the level of consciousness to carry out the program you have assigned. Here's a very simple example. Suppose you decide to pick up a book from the desk. All the conscious thought needed is to recognize the object, know that you want to hold it in your hand, and choose to pick it up. That decision triggers your goal-seeking mechanism to direct your body to perform the actual task. You don't need to gain a thorough knowledge of anatomy to know which muscles will be involved in your arm and shoulder and in your hand, which ones will contract or stretch, and in what order. You don't need to think about how far your arm or hand must reach, or the amount of strength you will require to lift the book. Your arm and hand work on the basis of feedback from your eyes and your sense of touch to make whatever minute corrections of direction or strength are needed to accomplish the goal. So efficient is the system that your movements to pick up the book appear completely smooth. You are never aware that any corrections are necessary. You just did it. Your goal-seeking mechanism can work under real handicaps. Suppose you want to hold the book in your hand, but you're in a dark room and can't see it. You can still succeed. The action is just a little more complex. The path to the goal is hidden. So you begin with fuzzy scanning motions. You feel around until you find the desk in the dark. Then your hands begin to move lightly over the desk, searching, scanning, and comparing the resulting sensations to all the memories you have stored in your brain about the size, shape, and feel of a book. Your brain rejects the telephone, the pen holder, or the desk lamp that you touch. This continues until you identify the book and pick it up. This type of goal-seeking requires the use of a highly complex memory and a huge amount of stored data. Your mind seeks an answer consistent with all aspects of the problem you have given it, and it continues to work until a satisfactory match is found between the goal and a possible path to its achievement. And it works without tying up your conscious thinking ability. You can carry on a conversation, sing a song, or plan an agenda for a meeting while you feel for the book. Science can build a computer, but cannot build the programmer. You, as a human being, are entirely responsible for programming and operating your cybernetic machine, your goal-seeking mechanism. As a human being, you have an inner being, a self, that is unique. It is the composite of all the qualities that make you different from every other person. This self, this inner I, operates the thinking process to pose problems, to imagine goals and to consider their worth, and then selects the specific goals toward which your efforts will be directed. Your inner self possesses values, needs, desires, and emotions. These qualities can never be built into a computer. They make you who you are, a unique being capable of unique success in achieving your chosen goals. If the mind is a goal-seeking mechanism, why is it that so many people fail to reach the level of success they would like? It is merely because they do not understand how to use and to program this marvelous tool to achieve the goals they desire. But it is possible to learn how to use and to direct your personal computer, your psycho-cybernetic mechanism, to bring you the success you desire. To use your psycho-cybernetic goal-seeking mechanism effectively, you need to understand the role of the self and the self-image, how they are related, and how they affect your personality and your life. Mere positive thinking is not enough to ensure success unless your concept of self is also positive. Your inner self is the core of your being, who and what you are. Your inner self is good and beautiful. It is creative. It possesses unlimited potential for achievement and success. Emerson said, "There are no great and no small." Your unique self is your birthright as a human being. It contains all that is required for success and unlimited achievement. To realize your full potential, all that is required is to release your inner self from all its inhibitions and any artificial limitations that have been imposed upon it, and allow it to become the unerring, goal-seeking mechanism it was designed to be. Obviously, this is not as simple as it sounds, but it is entirely possible. Your inner self is often limited and hampered in its goal-seeking activity by your self-image. Your self-image is the picture you hold in your mind of your inner self. If that image is realistic and accurate, your psychocybernetic force is strong and active. If for some reason your self-image is distorted or obscured so that the picture you hold of your inner self is limited or unreal, your success mechanism is hampered in its effectiveness to whatever degree distortion exists. Your self-image began to develop at your birth. All of your experiences, both pleasant and unpleasant, negative and positive, played a part in helping you paint a picture of who and what you are. If you grew up in an atmosphere where you were frequently told that you were too little, too clumsy, or too dumb to do certain tasks, you may have accepted that estimate as true and may still believe it. As a result, the mental picture you have drawn of yourself sets up for your psychocybernetic mechanism a negative goal of failure. You select a worthy goal but secretly believe that you can't achieve it, and your automatic computer unerringly moves toward your goal of failure to get you what you want. You confirm your picture. You prove that you are too little, too clumsy, or too dumb. Several decades ago, as plastic surgeons began to learn how to repair or reconstruct facial defects, they became fascinated with watching the effect that corrective surgery often made on the personalities of patients. People who had been shy and withdrawn because they believed that their disfiguring scars or facial defects made them repulsive to others were often transformed into entirely different personalities when these defects were corrected. They were able to see themselves as normal or even beautiful. But surgeons also noted that some patients who complained that they were handicapped by a facial defect experienced no sense of relief after corrective surgery. Sometimes they even claimed that they could see no change or that they now looked worse. Even when confronted with before and after pictures that showed obvious improvements in facial structure, these patients would declare that nothing was different. The surgeons gradually began to realize that a person's self-image has far more to do with success and happiness than any facial feature. A healthy self-image works with your psychocybernetic power to move you forward toward success. A limited self-image blocks the operation of your success mechanism by giving it failure goals to pursue. Whatever goals you pursue, your goal-seeking mechanism works by negative feedback. If you get slightly off course, the negative feedback tells you to correct your direction. But negative feedback is intended to correct forward motion, not to stop all motion. Trouble comes when a negative or limited self-image causes you to view negative feedback as failure and to give up. It is important to learn that you are not your mistakes. Remember that negative feedback deals in verbs, not nouns. It is healthy to say, "I failed," because you can then correct your behavior and move on to success. But it is self-defeating to say, "I am a failure." Always use negative feedback to judge your actions, not your being. The exciting message of psychocybernetics is that you can increase the effectiveness of your goal-seeking mechanism by giving it success goals to seek. This means that you can change your personality. You can change your habits and attitudes. You can change your thought patterns. In other words, you can become whatever you want to become because your inner self possesses unlimited creativity and potential for success. All that is necessary is to learn how to release that potential and to use it. If you can remember what day it is, choose what to wear, or dial a telephone, you can succeed. It is really that simple. Let's take a look at how your success mechanism works. The first step in using psychocybernetics is to consciously visualize the goal or target you want to achieve. This means you must crystallize your thinking about what you desire until you can clearly visualize it in all of its details. You must believe in your goal as already in existence and believe that you can move toward it and make it yours. As you crystallize your thinking about the goals you want to achieve, draw on your inner being, your self-image, to decide what is consistent with the real you. What kind of person do you want to be? How do you want to act? In what kind of environment do you want to live? What kind of relationships do you want with other people? Think in terms of results. Don't worry about how you will attain the results you desire. Remember that it is the function of the automatic goal-seeking mechanism to supply the how. The task of your conscious thinking process is to identify the goal clearly and to choose to own it. Expect to make mistakes or suffer temporary failures. All goal-seeking mechanisms work by negative feedback, going forward, making mistakes, and correcting course. If you aren't making any mistakes at all, you probably aren't moving forward at all. Learning and progress come through trial and error, mentally correcting aim after an error until a successful direction is established. Then forget the errors and remember the successful responses. Repeat them over and over until your goal is reached. This process is the basis for the old saying, practice makes perfect. Purely logical thinking would seem to indicate that imperfect performance of a task would reinforce the mistakes and performance would never improve. But because the goal-seeking mechanism is directing your practice, it regards errors as feedback and uses them as the basis for corrective action. Each repetition is a little nearer to the desired perfection. A university tennis coach made use of this concept to produce a team that took an amazing number of titles in college competition. He made many hours of videotape of his players on the practice court. He then edited the tape and saved the sequences that showed each player making perfect serves, excellent returns, and smooth plays. He spliced these together in an hour-long tape, and the players spent time every day watching themselves playing excellent tennis. They never saw themselves make a mistake. Consequently, they remembered only their successes, and they began to repeat these successes more and more often. Learn to trust your goal-seeking ability to work for you. If you become too worried about how it works or whether it will work, you overload its circuits. Too much conscious thinking or deliberate attempt to control your creative power by force destroys its rhythm. The psycho-cybernetic power operates below the level of conscious thinking. Let it work. You can't make it work. It works as it senses your need, not as you demand. If you demand to see proof that it will work before you are willing to trust it, you will never receive its benefits. Act as if it is there, and it will be. Emerson said, "Do the thing, and you will have the power." Once you have clearly defined what you want to become or to have, the next step is creative mental picturing of yourself in possession of that goal. Set aside at least 30 minutes a day to relax and put aside the worries and concerns of the day. Spend that time visualizing yourself as you want to be. See yourself as the unique person you are. Make no comparisons between yourself and anyone else. God made us short and tall, light and dark, but he never expressed a preference for one type over another. Computer programmers have a saying, garbage in, garbage out. If you feed your cybernetic mechanism with thoughts and pictures of inadequacies, those concepts will be accepted by your goal-seeking mechanism as the goal toward which you have chosen to move. Instead, feed into your mind pictures of yourself as successful, effective in all you do, and achieving the goals that are important to you, and these pictures will be accepted by your mind as the goals you will seek. Your psycho-cybernetic mechanism and your nervous system perceive no difference between real experience and a visualized experience. This is the key that makes it possible for you to change your personality and your effectiveness in any area of life you choose. Visualization works best when you are totally relaxed, shutting out the cares and concerns of the world around you, concentrating only on your goal and seeing yourself in possession of it. This type of mental role-playing changes behavior in the most effortless way possible. Football players call mental role-playing skull practice. Here's how to do it. Close your eyes and imagine a future event connected with the goal you are seeking. Imagine what is happening. See it vividly as though it were a movie with the inside of your eyelid serving as the screen. Plan what you will do and many different variations of the event. If you don't like the results of one action, back up the film and rerun the picture, trying a different reaction. You can anticipate all the obstacles, all the puzzling situations, all the problems you could possibly encounter. And you can try out various solutions for them all until you find the best possible one. Then, when the actual event comes and the new skill is needed, you are prepared. You know just what to do. This kind of visualizing works in any type of situation. It works in sales, in applying for a job, in acting, in managing people, in performing music. In any new situation, you can be successful extemporaneously because you have rehearsed extemporaneously. Repeated rehearsal has stored in your mind a number of successful pictures or memories. When the actual event occurs, your goal-seeking mechanism sorts through these success memories and chooses the one that is most appropriate as the basis for your action in the present. Coaches of the U.S. Olympic ski team make use of psycho-cybernetic techniques in training skiers. They teach skiers to spend time each day visualizing themselves covering the same course they had skied earlier in the day. They are taught to relax, close their eyes, and then visually and mentally experience skiing the entire course. Sensors attached to the muscles of the skiers show that the muscles of their legs and back contract as they mentally experience making the moves necessary to run the course. The skiers report that they can actually feel the cold wind on their faces. They experience the shift of weight as they execute turns and feel the vibration as they cross icy moguls on the course. The addition of psycho-cybernetic training to actual field training has helped skiers reach a greater level of competence than the coaches had expected possible. Another experiment was conducted with a group of basketball players. Team members were divided into 3 groups. They were tested to determine their accuracy in making free throws. The first group was told to practice making free throws for 20 minutes a day for 20 days. The second group was to spend the same amount of time visualizing themselves making free throws. They were to relax with eyes closed and see themselves stepping up to the line and sinking the basket. If they missed, they were to see themselves correcting the movement and sinking the basket. The third group was not to practice at all. At the end of the 20 days, the 3 groups were tested again. Those who had practiced daily improved 24% in accuracy. Those who had not practiced at all stayed the same. The amazing result of the group who practiced only in visualization was a 23% improvement in accuracy, only slightly less than the improvement showed by those who actually practiced daily. Experiments like this prove the effectiveness of the psycho-cybernetic effect. More than mere repetition is involved in any kind of practice. If repetition were the only factor involved in practice, it would change nothing. You would continue to make the same mistakes over and over. But because you see a mental image of the goal toward which you are striving, each episode of practice produces feedback to tell you how to adjust your behavior or movements to move closer to your goal of perfect performance. If your goal is a powerful tennis serve, each practice shot is information fed into your mental computer that tells your muscles and your body how to adjust to make the next shot a little better. If your goal is to improve your ability to communicate with other people in your work, each experience of communication is information to show you how to adjust your next encounter to move closer to your goal. Since your brain and your nervous system cannot tell the difference between an actual experience and one vividly imagined, you can visualize your goal, and your mind accepts the goal and begins to operate automatically to move you toward it. You can actually rehearse the future. You can practice the attitudes, habits, and thoughts that will accompany achievement of your goal, in an environment that holds no risk. Mental rehearsal allows you to test various attitudes and responses to determine their effectiveness. If they are comfortable and promise satisfaction, your mental rehearsal can be repeated until you will automatically call upon those attitudes and responses when they're needed. But if the various attitudes and responses you try out in mental rehearsal are uncomfortable or promise to lead you away from your goal, this serves as feedback that allows you to alter your path, try new options, or look for other solutions before the occasion when the actual behavior will be needed. Many of your errors or failures can be dealt with ahead of time when there are no external consequences. Because the trial and error procedure can be accomplished largely through visualization, you can discover the best path to success and follow it with confidence. You experience a dramatic increase in your belief in your own potential and your ability to succeed. Added self-confidence, in turn, improves your ability to visualize and to mentally rehearse your goals. Your goal-seeking mechanism becomes more accurate because of the added feedback you are providing. You set up a cycle that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Reinforce visualization with the power of affirmation. An affirmation is a statement that describes your condition as it will be when you have achieved your goal. Just as your mind accepts visualized pictures on the same basis as it accepts real events, it also accepts verbal input without regard to its present reality. In other words, if you have a goal to become a vice president in your company, use part of your relaxation period every day to repeat your positive affirmation, "I am vice president of my company." Repeat it aloud. Your mind believes the sound of your voice. Say it with confidence, with pride, and with satisfaction. Reinforce your affirmation with vivid visualization of yourself in the vice president's office, doing the work you will do. Consistent positive data of this kind fed into your psycho-cybernetic mechanism makes subtle changes in your actions and attitudes. You begin to think like a vice president, to dress appropriately, to manage your time and your attitudes as a vice president does. You believe in your new image, and because you believe, others soon begin to believe also. As a result, you attract the condition you seek. When others begin to see you as you are now seeing yourself, it is inevitable that you will move into the position for which you have become obviously suited. One of the most important requirements of using psycho-cybernetics to become a winner is to refuse to struggle and instead to allow things to happen. Trust your inner self. Remember that your inner being is good and beautiful, that it is creative and possesses unlimited potential. It will automatically bring about the good and beautiful goals you seek. Force and coercion are unneeded. Goals are not attained by conscious thoughts. Goals are defined by conscious thought. It is the automatic goal-seeking mechanism of your mind that is the operative force that brings your goals into reality. Neither are problems solved by active thinking. Problems are merely identified, and data is gathered about them in the realm of conscious thought. Then the automatic goal-seeking mechanism correlates all the data gathered by conscious thought with everything else that is already in your memory. Your mind works below the level of conscious thought to test solutions, to try out options, and to find a condition that will best meet all of the criteria presented by the problem. When the answer to the problem is ready, it surfaces without any real effort on your part. You may call it a flash of intuition, a hunch, or a lucky idea, but actually it is just the normal working of the psycho-cybernetic force that is available to you all the time. Inventors, writers, composers, and other creative people often testify that the idea for their greatest creations came in an intuitive flash rather than from concentrated, direct thinking. One example of this type of intuitive flash is Thomas Edison's invention of the phonograph. While working on a problem related to voice transmission by telephone, Edison had a sudden inspiration for a machine that would capture and reproduce sound, not merely transmit it. He sat down and quickly drew a sketch, handed it to a model builder, and told him to build one. The model maker looked at it, said it wouldn't work, and handed it back. Edison insisted that the model be built as he had drawn it, and the phonograph was born. As you learn to use your psycho-cybernetic power more effectively, you will discover that you can trust your hunches, those intuitive flashes that bring you ideas, solutions to problems, and new understanding of situations. You can trust these intuitive flashes because they are based on a sound foundation of identifying your goals, visualizing them specifically and in detail, and allowing your goal-seeking mechanism to move you toward their achievement. Your psycho-cybernetic ability does not exist in a vacuum. You must be actively engaged in moving toward your goals. Edison would never have visualized the phonograph had he not been filling his mind with ideas and data that made it possible to identify the necessary relationships between various facts and experiences and produce the image of the new machine. Here are 5 principles to guide you in the use of your psycho-cybernetic power. 1. Do all of your thinking, planning, and choosing of priorities before you make a decision about any course of action. Then, stop thinking, planning, and choosing, and allow the natural course of action to proceed. 2. Form the habit of consciously responding to the present moment, not to the past or the future. Live one day at a time. Yesterday cannot be changed, and tomorrow is not yet here. Today is the only time you have to live. Alcoholics Anonymous stresses the importance of this principle by telling people to stop drinking for today only, not to think about tomorrow or next year. 3. Attempt to do only one thing at a time. Anytime you split your attention and concentration to accomplish 2 jobs at the same time, you reduce your effectiveness in both. Identify the top priority of the moment and give your full attention to it. 4. Take time to sleep on major decisions. When you have given the necessary time to thinking and planning, allow your psycho-cybernetic machine time to work on the data you have given it to produce the creative ideas that will help you implement your goals successfully. Taking time to sleep on it is not a cop-out. It is a constructive strategy for ensuring success. 5. Relax while you work. When you have used all of the resources of your conscious mind and have involved your psycho-cybernetic force in your plan for success, you can move ahead without stress or anxiety. Worrying about the course of action you have chosen confuses your psycho-cybernetic mechanism by providing false feedback. If you find yourself tense, take 20 minutes for a relaxation break. Arrange not to be disturbed. Lie down or sit quietly with your eyes closed and consciously relax your entire body, one set of muscles at a time. Visualize a calm, peaceful scene that symbolizes rest and serenity for you. Feel yourself drinking in the tranquility. Allow it to feed your body until you have peace of mind and peace of soul. Then return to your work, carrying with you this sense of inner peace and strength. As you move toward your goal, you will from time to time encounter situations and events that represent setbacks or obstacles. Your attitude toward these occurrences will determine whether they prove to be temporary or whether they will utterly destroy your success. When you trust your psycho-cybernetic power to bring you to successful achievement of your goals, you can face obstacles and setbacks with calm assurance. You can continue to be happy and to feel successful even in the midst of what appears to be a failure. When setbacks occur, remain objective. Recognize them as mere interruptions or detours on your route to success. Give your psycho-cybernetic power time to find new ways around them, and resist the temptation to believe that these setbacks represent you in any way. Remember that you are not your mistakes or your problems. You are the one who can deal with mistakes and problems and rise above them. When you allow your psycho-cybernetic power to direct your life, you are marked by these characteristics. 1. A sense of direction. You know where you are going, and you trust your inner being to provide the motivation and the mechanics for reaching your goals. 2. Self-understanding. You know who you are. You are willing to trust your potential for success and to use all of the talents and abilities that you have to their fullest extent. 3. Courage. You are not afraid to risk because you know that you can respond instantly to negative feedback and correct any mistakes before they become significant. 4. Love. You care about other people and want to share with them the abundance of life you have discovered. Your love and acceptance of others is based on your own secure self-image. 5. Self-esteem. You recognize your own worth, not in a selfish, egotistical manner, but in simple recognition of the potential you possess as a gift of God. 6. Supreme self-confidence. You believe without question in your ability to achieve your goals by using your own potential. You have discarded all doubt and fear and trust your psycho-cybernetic power to lead you to success. 7. Acceptance of self. You rejoice in who you are and in what you are. You recognize that you are not perfect and that you have the capacity for growth and development. But this is not an occasion for dissatisfaction. Recognition of your ability to grow is a challenge that you accept gladly. You accept yourself at the point of growth you have attained today and move on with excitement toward the growth you want to achieve in the future. In our society today, the pursuit of happiness sometimes becomes a frantic merry-go-round that traps people in a vicious circle of meaningless activity. But true happiness is built on inner tranquility, an inner peace that comes from knowing and accepting who you are. Here are some practical suggestions for daily action to build your sense of tranquility. First, ignore unwanted stimuli. A simple example is the telephone. If you're busy with something that is of major importance to you and your goals, let the phone ring. You are not compelled to answer it. If the message is truly important, the caller will call again. Second, if you can't ignore an unwanted stimulus, delay your response. If someone presses you for a decision, promise to decide tomorrow. Few situations represent a crisis that cannot wait a few hours or a few days. Third, reserve time each day for relaxation. Shut out the rest of the world and use this time to commune with your inner self. Allow both your body and your conscious mind to relax. Visualize scenes of peace and tranquility and see yourself enjoying them. Fourth, build a quiet room in your mind to which you can retreat when stress or tension threatens. During your periods of relaxation, visualize this room and its furnishings so vividly that you can recall it instantly. At any time you find yourself becoming tense, worried, or stressed, visualize yourself entering the quiet room. Feel the draining away of tension as the quietness envelops you. Use your quiet room as a retreat or a haven where you can relax and get in touch with your own inner self. Fifth, take a little vacation every day. There are times when we all need to escape from the anxieties and stress that fill the day. Just as a few days away from your usual duties allow you to return refreshed and eager for new challenges, A period as short as 20 minutes each day in which you escape from problems, anxieties, and pressure can bring you back renewed and ready to tackle whatever job needs to be done. You can prepare ahead of time to deal with problems, obstacles, and crises. Schools and factories conduct periodic fire drills to train people for calm action in the event of a fire. If a fire does occur, the people in the building calmly follow the rehearsed actions that will take them to safety. Shadowboxing is good preparation for the time the fighter will need instantaneous response as he faces an opponent in the ring. When you prepare ahead of time by visualizing all the circumstances surrounding the achievement of your goal, you're able to meet problems, obstacles, and crises with calm assurance. You will find that meeting a crisis brings you additional power. Each successful encounter proves the working of your success mechanism and gives you added confidence to face the future under its guidance. You can build that winning feeling by thinking in possibilities. Look for ways to accomplish your goals, not for reasons they can't be reached. Be willing to make gradual progress toward achievement of your goals. The personality changes you must make as you grow toward achievement of your goals require time. You are already a success when you begin to move toward your goals. Understanding the principle of progressive realization provides you with the patience to keep on working toward your goals even when it seems to be taking a lot longer to reach them than you had expected. When you are reaching toward new levels of achievement, it sometimes takes more time than you had expected. How fast you reach your goal is relatively unimportant. Making steady progress in the right direction is vital. When you can look back at today's activities and see a specific step you took toward becoming more like the person you ideally want to be, you're encouraged to take another step tomorrow. When you look back over a week, a month, or a year, and see gradual personal growth and progressive achievement of specific goals, it is easy to believe in your ability to take the next step, to achieve the next goal, and to grow in another area of your life. Each tiny step, each small victory, is stored as more information in the data banks of your personal computer. It is instantly available for reference when new situations arise. It provides possible actions to take for added success. Even more important, it provides confidence, excitement, enthusiasm, and belief, the all-important attitudes that motivate actions. Regard negative feelings as a challenge. Recognize them as feedback that will help you make the necessary changes to continue to grow and to move toward your goals. Learn to recognize the difference between excitement and fear. As you move toward new goals and higher levels of success, you will face situations that are new to you. New experiences bring excitement and heightened awareness of the need for new responses. But these feelings are not fear. They are signals to call upon the experiences you have stored through visualization as you have rehearsed in advance the responses you will make to such situations. Each new situation will feel familiar because you have already visualized it. Interpret the excitement as enthusiasm and use enthusiasm to produce the willingness to attempt new actions for achieving your goals. Trust your psycho-cybernetic power. Use it and develop it. It is the basis for developing that winning feeling.